So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Welcome back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Monday, March 28th. Hope everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, March 28th here today, coming off another big night last night in the world of sports, coming off another big weekend in the world of sports. We had a lot of great college basketball on, a lot of great NBA on, a ton of great sports, hockey, basketball, college basketball. March Madness continues. Our March Madness Final Four is set. Villanova, Kansas. And the battle between the biggest rivalry in college basketball and one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports, North Carolina, Duke. A little UNC Duke action as the rivalry continues. Coach K in his final season. Will it be his final game? Will he win it all? He's got 2 more games left. If he wins this one at the Final Four, he's got 1 more left for it all. And we'll see how it all plays out. The magical run of St. Peter's ends. Really bummed. I'm bummed. And I know they knocked out my team. And I know there's some people out there that are like, oh, how are you rooting for a team that knocked out your team? Look, the story was great. The story was awesome. It's something that I will remember forever. You will remember forever. There might not be another run as big as St. Peter's was. You talk about knocking off what a lot of people had was a favorite in Kentucky. They knocked off a Murray State team that I believe going into that game was on a 21-game win streak. They knocked off a Purdue team, another team who a lot of people thought were capable of winning it all. Earlier in the season were ranked number 1 in the nation. And they obviously lost to North Carolina, but it was an excellent run. And as a fan of Kentucky, at first I was like, oh, they beat us. I was so disappointed in the loss. And I still kick myself because I feel like I wasn't really able to fully take in what St. Peter's was doing. I mean, they were making history with everything they did. And it was a great run. First ever 15 seed to get to the Elite 8. Knocked off Kentucky. Knocked off Purdue. Took the college basketball, took the sports world by storm by beating some of the biggest name schools. And it was a great run. I wanted to see them win yesterday. Against a good North Carolina team that right now, out of the 4 teams that are left, Kansas, Villanova, and obviously their upcoming opponent in Duke, North Carolina is the hottest team. They're the hottest team in college basketball right now. So we'll see how Duke, plays out, and we'll see how they combat and go against Duke or go against North Carolina in their upcoming matchup. But the Final Four set, it's going to be exciting. I'm pumped up for it. My prediction is Villanova. I'm rooting for Villanova. I want to see Villanova win it all. Personally, I think it's going to be probably a Villanova-Duke matchup, which isn't bad. And I'm hoping that Villanova pulls it all out. I think, I don't want Kansas. Definitely don't want Kansas. I have a lot of respect for Coach K. He's a great coach, but I don't want to see Duke. If anything, I want to see my preferred championship would be North Carolina Villanova. But I think we'll probably get Villanova-Duke, but we'll talk more of it as the week goes on. So, today's going to be a short podcast today, and that's with just a devastating loss last night. A big game, in the play-in, and the Nets lose. So they go from 7 seed they go from, what were they? Were they an 8 seed, 9 seed, 7 seed? I don't even know what they were. They go from an 8 seed to a 9 seed. And they are now if the season were to end today, the Nets would host the Atlanta Hawks in a 1-game play-in round to see who moves on to play the loser of the Hornets, Cavs. So that's where the Nets are at. Terrible loss last night. Terrible. Free throws were terrible. 3 points were terrible. Kyrie Irving, for the most part, didn't play well. He was good down the stretch, but it was just it was such a frustrating game to watch on so many levels, just because of the fact that it's like we're so much better than that. It just was not good. It was not a good game. So Tough loss for the Nets. They'll have a much-needed day off today. Rangers got a huge win last night. Pretty fun one to watch. Another game winner from Keandre Miller. Nice feed from Laffy for the Keandre Miller game winner. Islanders, Rangers, Nets all have days off today. The only team in action today coming off a win last night against the Pistons is the New York Knicks, and they'll be in action today back at the Garden against the Bulls. So, and like I said, college basketball on a little bit of a pause right now. April 2nd, Saturday, will be all of the Final Four games and all that good stuff. Alrighty, so going to be a short pod today. Going to get into the topics here. We're going to start off with, we're going to talk about fantasy baseball today. So last night I did my fantasy baseball draft. It was exciting. I feel good about my team. I always say this, I got robbed. I got robbed a little bit. I will admit there was definitely some picks that probably could have been better, that I definitely could have had, but I got robbed a little bit. But it is what it is, right? I'm okay with it. I got a good team. I like my team. I think it's definitely coming out of last year's draft. I feel better about this team than I did about my last year's team, which got me in second place. So if what it tells me how I'm feeling, that second should turn into a first, hopefully. So we'll get into the draft, get into some fantasy baseball, give you some advice. I got a list here, and kind of just talk about as the season gets right around the corner. Give you what you need to know in terms of your fantasy baseball and who to draft and all that. And then we'll get into the New York sports update. Like I said, not much going on tonight, really, in the world of sports in general. Good amount of basketball games on tonight. Continuing a spring training, but other than that, for New York sports, there's really nothing going on tonight. It's really just the Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Isles all have days off today on this Monday. March 22nd, 28th, getting closer. 28th, getting closer and closer to opening day. We're only this Thursday will be a week away from opening day. Alright, so with all that being said, a lot to get to. This is BSN podcast, and let's get into it. Alrighty, so yesterday, last night, actually, I did my fantasy baseball draft. So I'm not the leader of this league. In my other leagues, I am. Fantasy basketball, which actually in fantasy basketball, I'm in the championship. So today that starts today and goes all the way into the end of the season. So that's pretty exciting, pretty pumped up for that. So a pretty exciting time as a fantasy player to be in the championship for fantasy basketball and to just be starting up my fantasy baseball season. So last year was my first year ever doing fantasy baseball. My first year ever, learning how to draft and all that stuff, and I got in second place. So I had a pretty good year last year. I won 11-10 overall, and I came in second in my league. So my league is the league that I'm in is 10 people, and I came in second. So it was a pretty good year for me. Got a nice, had a nice season, had a couple nice guys, for me to come through, Dylan Carlson, guys like that who really came through big time for me. Had a couple other waiver acquisitions who came through good for me, and last night I had my draft. So I usually do this with all the leagues. I usually do this with everyone. Now, this year I didn't do a hockey league because I couldn't get enough people. I was close to doing one, I just couldn't get enough people. I just didn't have enough. I was asking people. I just could not get enough people that were truly bought in, were going to do their lineup, and truly were going to, be genuinely excited to play fantasy hockey. Just couldn't get enough people. So hopefully next year I can. If you're interested, you could drop it in the comments down below. If you're ever interested in joining a fantasy hockey league, that might be something that I'm probably doing more next year. If I could find the people, I'll try my best. Hockey not as popular as, finding people for baseball, basketball, or obviously football being the main one. But I do this for all my leagues. I kind of give you my rankings. Now, since last night I did my draft, it's kind of, this is more for you than it is for me, in terms of rankings, because I already got my team. I already drafted my team. I'm going to give to you my team in a second. Out of the 10 people in the league, I had the 8th overall pick. It was a snake draft, so you kind of had the 8th pick, and then you had a couple picks a little bit later. So it wasn't a bad pick. I still sit here and kind of play the what-if game. If I had the 6th overall pick, my team probably could have been like 10 times better in terms of just some of the guys that I could have had, some of the guys that I was hoping to get just off the board a little earlier than when my picks come up, and that's just how it is. That's how the cookie crumbles. You're not going to be able to get everybody who you wanted to get. But I'm going to give you some of the rankings, give you some advice, and then we'll get to the New York Sports Update and wrap things up today. Going to be a short podcast today, it's a Monday, so, and, like I said, with everything, my schedule and stuff, 'tis the season for baseball, which, is obviously something I play and stuff, so practice and all that. So I'm only got about an hour here, or only got about a couple minutes here to get this stuff done, and then hopefully upload the podcast within the next hour. So let me give you my team for fantasy baseball. Now, this is my fantasy baseball team that I drafted last night, like I said. So my catcher is JT Realmuto. My first base is Yuli Gurriel. Second base, Jonathan India. Third base, Alex Bregman. Shortstops, Carlos Correa. So my infield, I like a lot. I got Yuli. Yes, he's 38, but he's still playing at a high level. Got a high batting average, good player on a good team. Jonathan India coming off of winning the Rookie of the Year. Another guy who, in my eyes, I see a guy who can only get better, not a guy who's going to regress. I know you could always put into the factor, a sophomore slump, all that stuff, but I see a guy that is more on the upside than he is on a sophomore slump incoming. I see a guy that can only improve. He's young. He's young. He's playing on a Reds team that, definitely got rid of some key pieces this offseason. He's going to kind of be the center of the focus there. And for a guy last season who batted .269, cranked in 69 RBIs, and had 20-plus homers, you got to hope that you expect some, a little bit more power this year. Batting average, maybe you get a batting average in the 270 to 275 range. Maybe a little bit up on the hits. Maybe he surpasses 100 hits this season. But there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Jonathan India. That's why I took the opportunity on him. And he was another guy who, too, I was circling in later rounds. Maybe not a guy that's as household of a name of a second baseman as let's say, some other guys in the league like a LeMahieu or like an Ozzie Albies or a, not maybe or Altuve or a Marcus Semien, but definitely a guy that's got a lot of upside and a lot of potential. My third baseman, Alex Bregman, same thing as last year, and my shortstops is Carlos Correa, same thing as last year as well. So I went back to the well a little bit and got Correa and Bregman, two guys that are on my team last season. Gene Seguro is my second base shortstop. Picked him up as well. Another guy, high batting average, not going to strike out much, hit for contact, driving some runs, get on base, steal bases, walk. Just an all-around. Is he going to crank in 30 home runs? No, but is he going to give you consistent points? Yes, as long as he can stay healthy, he's a solid asset. My first base, third base is Jared Walsh. And I like this, another guy too. Young guy, upside. Had a lot of, my biggest memory up to this point with Jared Walsh was the Yankees game that went into extra innings. That Chapman let up the grand slam against them, and we ended up losing that game, blowing the lead. But another young guy with a lot of upside. My outfield, which I love. I love my outfield. Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, Lourdes Gurriel, Charlie Blackmon, Avisail Garcia. Harper and Judge obviously headline it, and then, you add, I was really happy to add on Charlie Blackmon, another guy, high average type player, and Avisail Garcia, guy who had a really good year last year. Now with Marlins, not as in a hitter-friendly ballpark as he was, but still hoping he can bring some power, bring a much-needed, a little bit of power boost to the roster. My utility is Yoan Moncada, and my bench is Willy Adames, Alex Kirilloff, Christian Vasquez, and Luis Arraez. And the main reason I took Luis Arraez was because he's his third base, second base, and outfield. So it gives me some flexibility in terms of, the possibility of him, fitting in as an outfielder or second baseman or any of those type of combos. Give her, solid bench asset to have in a flexible option coming off the bench. My pitching is Max Scherzer. I actually had the 8th overall pick, like I said. So my pitcher was, my first overall pick was Max Scherzer. Second overall pick was Bryce Harper. And I want to say my third pick in the draft was it Bregman? I want to say it was Bregman. I think it was Bregman. And then I think it was Bregman, then was it Bregman, then I think it was Bregman, then Jose Barrios. I think. Yeah, it was Bregman, then Jose Barrios. And I want to say, was it Correa after that? I always forget. Was it Correa after that? 68th. No, it wasn't Correa. It might have been after Barrios. It might have been Logan Webb. And then maybe, did I take Jonathan India? Realmuto? Something. I don't know. Either way. But that's my pitch. My pitching is Max Scherzer, Jose Barrios, Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon, Chris Bassett, Kenley Jansen, Tariq Skubal, Aaron Savall, Taijuan Walker, my other bench kind of guy, is Kyle Gibson. So my biggest thing, and for those of you who are either still got a draft or going to draft, my biggest advice to you, my biggest thing to those of you who still have to draft, you got to load up on pitching. And this year I felt I did that to a certain extent. I love my core four I love. That is Max Scherzer, Jose Barrios, Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon. Love those four guys. I think those guys are going to be the headliners. Scherzer, a guy who could put up 20 points. Barrios, a guy who, could put up 15 to 16. Webb's a guy who, another young player that has so much potential. And Rodon, who's coming off a career year, can put up 19, 20 points a night as well. So that's my core guys, which I love. And then you add on some other guys like, Bassett. I wanted to get a relief pitcher in Kenley Jansen just so that I could have a guy that might be able to pitch a couple more days in a row than a starter going every 5. And I actually found it funny, as much as I don't like the Mets, and as much as I bash the Mets at times, I have 3 Mets pitchers. Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett, and Taijuan Walker. So 3 of the 5 Mets pitchers I got. Rolling with, obviously, number 1's DeGrom, 2 Scherzer, 3's probably going to be Bassett, 4's Taijuan Walker, and I assume 5 is Carlos Carrasco. I'd assume probably rounding out that list, or something to that extent. Chris Bassett's a guy, too. Am I expecting a year like he had last season where he put up a 3.15 ERA, struck out 159 and had a 12-4 record over, however many, had a 12-4 record out of the best season of his career? I'm not expecting that, but I do expect maybe a 3.4 ERA, 3.5, 3.6, anywhere a little bit of north of 3.3, and a guy, too, who for a 5th option in my pitching rotation, not a bad asset to have, especially given that, new home on a good team with a lot of good starting pitching, which could help the case too because he doesn't have much pressure on him. In Oakland, I know they have Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas, but in Oakland last season, he was kind of the headline. He was kind of the main guy that needed to go out there every night, every time he was pitching and put on a good show. With the Mets, he's got less pressure on him. Because if he doesn't do well, the pitcher right behind him might be Taijuan Walker, who can definitely pick up the load. And the pitcher behind him, Carlos Carrasco. And then you go back to the top, and you have 2 arguably the best pitchers in baseball, at Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. So I like where the Mets pitchers are in terms of pressure, right? They're going to have other guys to back them up. They're not going to, a lot of these Mets pitchers aren't going to need to be relied on all the time to throw 7, 8, 9 innings because they have so many other good starting pitching that they can be like, all right, you threw good six solid innings tonight. We got DeGrom going tomorrow. We don't need to overwork you, because we got DeGrom going tomorrow who we fully trust can, win and, pitch well as well. So that's also another thing that went through my head. Kenley Jansen's coming off a kind of a redemption season. Had a really good year last year. Finished 4th amongst relievers. Had a 2.2 ERA, a whip of 1.04. And for a guy who has had some health issues, kind of went through a little bit of a tough stretch last season, was really a bounce back and good season. Now he's going to Atlanta team. You got to hope that he can be similar to those numbers for Kenley Jansen for Kenley Jansen. And I rounded out with Tariq Skubal, Aaron Savali, and Taijuan Walker I'm actually pretty excited about. Taijuan Walker, a guy who last year had started so well and really struggled. And I don't know if some of that was the sticky stuff crackdown. I don't know what it all was. But a guy who I'm very high on. You all know, not even just in fantasy perspective, just in terms of a pitcher. I think he's got a lot of weapons. He's got a good fastball, good riding action, can strike out, kind of more of an underrated type player. And a guy who, once again, last season was like last season while DeGrom was out was kind of the number 2 guy that needed to pick up the load. This year, he's not going to need to do that. He's kind of the 4 or 5 option, takes some of the pressure off of him, allows him to pitch more loosely, which is what Taijuan Walker is meant for. I think one of the biggest things was why Taijuan Walker struggled so much. Some of it could have been the sticky stuff, but because he had so much pressure on him last season. He had so much pressure to deliver. It was him and Marcus Stroman because DeGrom was injured. Now that they're all back, Walker's more of a 4 or 5 guy, and a guy who has less pressure going to be able to pitch more loosely, which he's been his entire career. He's never been a number 1, never been a number 2. He's more of a borderline. He's more of a 4, possibly a 3rd option, depending on the type of team. So another guy too, who I like to have rounding out my rotation. And Kyle Gibson's on my bench. Was one of my last picks. I think actually my second to last pick. Just wanted to have another extra pitcher, injuries, all that stuff, just in case, and it can't hurt to have one of my bench spots. So my bench is four position players and one pitcher. So 5 bench spots. I was gonna go 3 and 2, but I feel good about my pitching and where it's at. So I felt I'll go with one depth piece at pitcher. That's Kyle Gibson. Showed some promise last season. Got traded to Philly. Kind of slumped a little bit in his time with Philly. You hope that he can come back this season and have a better year. Had a really good year last year with Texas. Very good year. Got dealt at the trade deadline and really wasn't the same player with Philly. So you got to hope that he can kind of regain what he had going in the first half of the season last year. And now was a guy who was having a really good year for his standards. Pitching to a low 3 ERA and was definitely one of the bigger targets come trade deadline last season. Look, I like I said, everyone's going to like their team. Everyone is. I like my team. I'm confident in my team. My one biggest thing is I could have had many other options. And I mean that by, if I had the 6th pick, I got robbed on Tim Anderson, Byron Buxton, Bobby Witt. We got robbed on Glaber. Got robbed on a couple guys. Got robbed on DeGrom. I was going to take DeGrom. Guy a pick ahead of me took DeGrom, so I had to revert to Sergio, which I have no issue with. I'm not complaining. But yeah, so that's my team. The core players are this. These are the core guys. It's Judge, Harper, Correa, Bregman, Realmuto, Barrios, Scherzer are probably the core, 6, 7 guys on my roster. Secondary level is probably, Yuli, Jonathan India, Segura, Lourdes Gurriel, Blackman. You go down the list to pitching, it's probably Webb and Rodon. Bassett probably too. And then you go down to the third tier is more guys like, Jared Walsh, Avisail Garcia, Yon Mancada, Willie Adames, Alex Krylov. Probably Janssen, Scuball, Savali, and then more depth pieces are guys like Christian Vasquez, Luis Arraez, Taijuan Walker, and Kyle Gibson are more your kind of depth guys on my roster. If you want to do kind of a roster breakdown and stuff like that. So, but yeah. So obviously, I hope that my team is. I hope that my team obviously stays healthy. Last season, one of my biggest issues, my team didn't stay healthy. And the first overall pick in my league was Ohtani, and then it was Soto. And I think it was Soto. Then was it? I forget. I think it was Vlad maybe. Some of the big names to look out for. I took some of the big things to take away. I took Harper over Betts. I know that's been a topic. A lot of people have gotten into that situation. Who do you take, Bryce Harper, Mookie Betts? I took Bryce Harper. He's reigning NL MVP. I think he's one of the best players in baseball. I think last season was kind of a big year for him to get back to the player that he was. First 2 years in Philly was a little off. And then I think last season really got into form. So I took Harper. Betts last season was really concerning for me. I took Harper. I've actually had a lot of people ask me about Mike Trout. I've always said this. When Mike Trout's healthy, he's the best player in baseball. I don't care. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When he's healthy, he's the best player in baseball. You get him in the second round, third round, you take that chance. I didn't because I had Harper. I took Harper. He's MVP. He's coming off a great season, coming off of one of the better years of his career. Fine, a legit really good player that has stayed healthy. I didn't take Trout. Now if Trout falls to you, if you're in a league of 6 people and Trout falls to you, let's say second round, I'd take him. I would not disagree if someone takes Trout top 5. Because when he's out there, he's the best player in baseball. So, but even some other names just to look out for: Bo Bichette, Harper, Cole, Corbin Burns, Trey Turner, Jose Ramirez, Soto, Ohtani. Obviously, he's probably going to be the number 1 pick in all leagues. Go to some other starting pitching that I haven't really mentioned much. You go to Cole, Burns, Buehler, DeGrom, Scherzer, obviously. So there's a ton of good assets out there. And then you get to the later rounds, and you could look at guys like Swanson, Dylan Carlson, Avisail Garcia, Mark Hanna, You go to more assets like guys like Matt Olson, Wander Franco, Marcus Semien, Nick Castellanos, George Springer, Bregman, LeMahieu, Correa, Acuna, who should be back late April. You go to hitters like Vlad, Soto, Judge, Harper, Trout. Guys like Starling Marte, Byron Buxton, Jay Cronenworth, Austin Riley, Whit Merrifield, Matt Chapman, Gene Segura, and Dansby Swanson, all names to look out for to continue to build your roster. Outside of the core guys like Vlad and Ohtani and all them, there's just a lot of other good guys out there and a lot of good other guys that are available, especially if you're in short leagues where you can get to the 5th, 6th round, and guys like Olsen, guys like Castellanos and Springer could still be available. So, a lot of good talent out there. A lot of good talent. And, hopefully a successful season. And to all those who either are doing their draft tonight, whenever you're doing it, good luck. Hopefully you have a good year. And I'll obviously be updating you guys, but hopefully I have a successful season as well. Alrighty, so I'll go to fantasy basketball here to wrap things up, and then we'll go to the New York Sports Update. Might as well on the fantasy subject. So I won in fantasy basketball in the semifinals, 2,356 to 1,541, and today begins the championship. So this begins it all today. Tonight I got going Desmond Bane, Miles Bridges, Nikola Jokic, Darius Garland, Kelly Oubre Jr., John Collins, Buddy Hield. John Collins is out. Obviously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out, and John Morant's out as well. I made one roster move. I dropped Rashawn Holmes and picked up Andre Drummond. So that's my roster move for the championship. And, right now it's all knotted up 0-0, and let the games begin tonight. As for the rest of the New York sports and sports in general, tonight in the NBA, got a couple good games on. We got the Pacers, Hawks, I'll take the Hawks. Cavs, Magic, I'll take the Cavs. Hornets, Nuggets, I'll take the Nuggets. Knicks, Bulls, I'll take the Bulls. Raptors, Celtics, I'll take the Celtics. Heat, Kings, I'll take the Heat. Spurs, Rockets, I'll take the Spurs. Grizzlies, Warriors, I'll take the Grizzlies. And Thunder, Trailblazers, I'll take the Thunder. As for the NHL, we got 5 games on tonight. Capitals, Hurricanes, I'll take the Hurricanes. Blues, Canucks, I'll take the Blues. Blackhawks, Sabres, I'll take the Blackhawks. Oilers, Coyotes, I'll take the Oilers. And Kings, Kraken, I'll take the Kings. As for the baseball and MLB today, Yankees smoked the Tigers 9-1. It was a great day for the Yankees and a big day for Ronald Guzman. Had 4 RBIs, 2 hits, 2 runs. Good day for the Yankees overall. Torres had another home run. He continues to rake in spring training. His batting average up to .421 for the spring. And one late game tonight, Cubs-Reds. Yes, a ton of other games going on as well right now. Mets, the Mets did not play today. Like I said, the basketball off until Saturday. So a little bit of a break in the March Madness action. Anyway, that will do it. Yesterday I did a scorebook for the Yankees game. So that felt great. It was great to do yesterday. Scorebook for the Yankees game. So that was good. Yankees smoked the Pirates yesterday as we get closer and closer to baseball season. And, that will do it for today's podcast. I apologize if it looks like here and right here are, it looks like there's, giant, strobe lights coming down. It's the normal light right there. It's just, for some reason, the way my camera's set up, it's, not, it's just not, it's, not, it's weird. So, I apologize for that. I'm going to try to get that fixed. I know it doesn't look good. It looks like I got 2 big strobe lights, but it's the same lights I've been using. It's the same lights that are on, it's just normal ceiling lights. So, try to fix that. I don't know why that's happening all of a sudden. I don't know if it's something with my camera, whether it's something with my camera setup, or if it's just some sort of reflection of some sort, but I'm going to try to fix that as soon as I can. So, anyway, that will do it for today's podcast. Another good one in the books. Got some football stuff to talk about. Draft nearing as well. More baseball stuff. Really a packed time of year. And, a ton of sports. And I'll get, really break down the Final Four matchups as well as we get on later on in the week and all that good stuff. So, anyway, that will do it for today's podcast. As always, I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.